Hi guys, it's your girl Caitlin, and yes, you are not seeing things. I am back eventually, finally, to really quickly address the elephant in the room. Originally, what I wanted to do was I was going to do a big long video where, you know, for sort of first 10 minutes, I was going to explain sort of where I'd been, what I'd been up to, you know, why things took longer than I had anticipated, etc. And then after that, I'd, you know, have, you know, another 10 minutes of a more traditional video, you know, tutorial, whatever it was going to be. And I thought about it, and then actually in reality that makes very little sense, because there's obviously going to be some people that want to watch, you know, are curious of what's been going on, and then there's going to be other people that just don't either care or know who the fuck I am anyway. So that would just be a really stupid video. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to split that into two. So this current video is going to be the first one going out. This is going to be the content one. This is going to be looking at Season 2 Best in Slot Gear, but there's a little bit of a twist, so stay tuned for that. And then after that, maybe tomorrow or something, I'll record a more personal one where we're going to sort of just, you know, a bit of a story time with Caitlin kind of vibe. Before we go forward, I do want to say a massive thank you to everybody that has, you know, contacted me or supported me, you know, in the last couple of months. They have been a bit trying, if I'm being completely honest, but, you know, to look forward to coming back to this has been a significant factor. So a massive thank you to all of you, and hopefully it will have been worth the wait. So that said, let's crack on and get into the good stuff. So here we are. As promised, Season 2 Best in Slot list for a Restoration Shaman. Now, obviously, if this was just going to be a Best in Slot list, then it would be, well, A, a bit crap, and B, about 30 seconds long. So rather than doing that, which I think we can all agree would be a pretty shit way to come back, what we are going to be doing is looking at not one, not two, but three different best in slot lists, and we're also going to discuss how and why we have three different lists. So fundamentally, it goes down to your play style. Now, this is something that we discuss quite often on Discord. Subtle plug for Discord, link down in the description if you want to join us there. So on the left hand side here we have the regen style. Now the aim here is to basically either outlast your opponent, or you just find yourself in an advantageous position, and it focuses, for the shaman at least, on the mana regen and really super effective healing, coupled with, you know, a defensive play style. Then we have, obviously, in the center, we have the flexibility. Now, the aim here is, generally speaking, to try and find a chink in the armor of your opponent. You're maybe going to try and force a mistake out of them. The game will generally go on for quite a while, and you're going to feel very safe and comfortable as you're playing the game, so that you can get to a position where you have, you know, a plethora of options. Because when you're sort of geared, you know, either towards the extreme left or the extreme right here, you know, you are going to generally be forced to either, with the extreme regen, you don't necessarily have the aggression, and if you're with the aggression, then you're, you know, on a bit of a clock. So the flexibility gearing is about creating us where we have options. And finally, on the right, we have my personal favorite, the aggro style, which does exactly what it says on the tin. It's about hyper-aggressive play style. You put, you know, a lot of pressure onto your opponents. Maybe you'll force mistakes out of them, or maybe they will capitulate from the raw pressure you're going to be putting on them. Okay, so here we have the first option, our regen and the spec. As you can see, obviously, we've highlighted a couple of things as well that we're just going to discuss really quickly. The first being over in the enhancement tree. Now, I will say all three of these specs are predominantly based around 2v2, and as a result, they are all three toughness specs. However, some of them do obviously have variants, and the first one we have here does include improved totems. As I said, we're going to look at winning through an efficiency, and obviously having, you know, improved strength of earth totem, pushing either say our rep paladin or our warriors damage that little bit further, is going to slowly nudge us forward. We're going to win through little advantages that we will gain, and our spec is designed to assist with that. So along with the improved totems, we then have the healing wave talents, both the reduced cast time at the tier 1 and then later on 3 points into healing way. Using this spec, you know, we will also try to be drinking quite frequently, and to assist with this we then obviously have Mana Tide and also Ancestral Knowledge back in the enhancement, just trying to give ourselves as much mana as possible, and then all the effective healing talents. The gearing itself, as you can see, there is a link there to the exact gear, so if you want to go check it out, the ins and outs. Of note, we have the inscribed Earthstorm Diamond, which gives us a chance to get mana back on cast. We then have red and predominantly yellow sockets. We have enough spell hit to get our 2% and then 1% additionally from talents. We have pure plus healing red sockets. The reason for this is what we want to be doing is putting out the most powerful heals we can. We do one big heal. This is the reason we also have Essence of the Martyr. We can pop that when we want to and do a big heal. We can go drink if we need to, we can run away, we can line of sight, and then we will return back and do another big heal. So as opposed to Shamans, where we might be using MP5 because we're constantly using, you know, lesser healing wave and just chain casting, this gear we are trying to have big fat heals that, you know, give our partner freedom to run away, then come back, and during that time we will be traditionally drinking. So along with this, we also have healing and regen weapons. We have the Mace from Vash and the Aegis of the Vindicator from Magtheridon. These are, you know, relatively tricky weapons to get, but, you know, this is a best in slot list. And then we also have one orange gem. This is a epic gem which gives us plus healing and spell hit. It gives us 5 spell hits, so it just pushes us as close as we can to that 2% without going all the way over. If you can't get that, then just use an 8% and you'll be over hit capped. And finally, as you can see with the asterisk, we can always swap the weapons, you know, and I would always encourage you to have a weapon swap macro over to, you know, some more defensive weapons, whether that's Gladiator's set, whether that's the dagger from Botanica, you know, whatever. You just want to be able to swap, if needs be, to something more defensive. Speaking of defensive, we are going now into a flexibility spec. This is the style where we're looking for options and versatility from both the spec and the gear. For maximum survivability, got more dodge. We also have extra hit, the reason being when we have extra hits from talents, we don't need to have extra hit from our gear, and we can stock it differently. We then again do have Mana Tide because obviously with, you know, these slightly defensive aspects, the game may well drag on. Generally it will drag on, and you want to be able to get, you know, keep your mana up. And we then have 5/5 Nature's Guardian to keep ourselves 100% alive. The way this spec and gear works collectively is that you can't really do anything if you're dead. So one of the risks we take when we take one of these, you know, either, you know, the extreme defensive or the extreme aggressive specs, is that we can sometimes get caught out, especially on the ladder where you're playing, you know, a bunch of people that you've never played before quite often, or you won't know who's coming up, and therefore you can get caught out by either a comp that's maybe a bit unique or an actual team that are trying something different. What the flexibility spec does is it gives you these options, and certainly in the case of the extra HP and defensive, gives you the breathing room to deal with these things that, come out of nowhere. When you've got refined spec which has a plan and you're gonna do that plan, when someone, throws you off slightly from that plan, you don't always have the buffering room to move and to change what you're doing. Whereas this spec and this gear set will hopefully assist you in doing that, and you can recover and go on to win. So it's a really powerful spec and gear set for laddering, especially earlier on when you're not necessarily accustomed to the comp you're playing, or just if the meta's shifted on something new's out there. So the way this spec and gear set works is it's about having the ability to make choices and have options available to us. We've got some fairly heavily defensive talents here, going with 5/5 dodge and then 5/5 nature's guardian. We also have some additional hit. The reason for this is that by having the additional hit in our talents, we can socket away from all of the hit we otherwise need, and we can use different sockets, but we're still keeping the mana tied because the game may well drag on and we need to keep the mana up. Essentially what we want to have here is we want to have a very large health pool, and therefore we can't get bursted, so our partner and I, so we can't get bursted, and then we can either go offensively and soak damage up with our larger health pool, or we can go defensively if we were getting pressured and again soak up the pressure with the extra health pool. The larger health pool gives us these options that we otherwise won't have with a smaller health pool, where we're forced into either one option or the other because eventually we just die. So gearing wise, we have two options with the meta. We can either go for the cast speed meta or the stun resistance meta. Obviously the stun resistance meta is the slightly more defensive one. If you find yourself leaning towards the defensive play style with this flexibility, then I would say go for that. If you are leaning slightly towards the more aggressive play style, then go for the cast speed. Our red sockets are predominantly going to be stamina. I actually think this is a misplay here, but we have plus healing and stamina gems in the purple, and then just pure stamina in the blue. You can mix and match these as I've done. I would probably generally though go for just pure stamina. Your HP pool will be very large, your mana pool will be a little bit lower than other such gear sets, but as I said, you simply will not die, or you'll be very hard to kill, and therefore you're able to make plays that aren't possible because other gear sets you're just dead. And then finally with the second trinket, we have the Talisman of the Horde. Again, this just gives us more survivability, more options with what we can do. We have a very big HP pool, and that's important when you're playing around and trying different things. Trust me, it sounds batshit insane, but this really does work as a strategy. And then finally we have, as I said, my favourite, the Aggro Gear set. So here we're going full out. We have the cast speed meta, and then for our blue and red sockets we have the Royal Knight side, so that is healing in MP5. We're then also maxing out our stats, and the reason this is that, as I sort of alluded to early on with the regen, in the aggro play style, you will never stop casting. You will either be running after them, purging them, and trying to melee them to slow them down, or you'll be chain casting lesser healing wave because your heals or your healing wave, you haven't got the extra talents to make that extremely powerful, so you're using your lesser healing wave, and as a result you're not going to really get necessarily too many chances to drink. So you want to have big stats, big mana pool, regen what you can, and then also anything you can to sort of get faster casting. So we have got Scarab the Infinite Cycle, which procs on heals, but the haste you get affects all of your spells. So what you can do is you can use the Scarab proc on, say, a Chain Lightning to, you know, burst in some additional damage, and that's the other reason that we have the cast speed meta. And then the spec itself, we have, again, the improved totems and the extra mana pool. As I said, you know, we're not really going to be regenning too much or too often here because we're going to be hyper aggressive. And the improved totems, again, that extra little bit of damage from, you know, the strength of Earth totem. We then have Dispel Resist, which we don't have in the other two specs. The reason for this being that, you know, because we don't have such great healing, the initial snapshotted, empowered Earth Shield that we, you know, place at the very beginning of the match, we want that to stick around as long as possible. So if it gets instantly dispelled, then it's not really of any use to us. So we want to get the dispel resistance to make up for that and give us that buffer. And then finally we have, you know, additional crit on our lightning spells. As I said, you know, this is the spec where you'll try to be, you know, shifting in some chain lightnings and lightning bolts, or, you know, whenever you can. Now, it may be that for whatever reason, you're not quite at this level of gear yet. Maybe like me, you took some time off, or, you know, you're just starting your own shaman and you want to, you know, try these specs out and these styles out, but you haven't got this level of gear yet. So what do you do? So the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that as we were going through, there were certain words that were highlighted with a colour. Those 4 words being healing, resilience and stamina, cast speed and regen. So each of these is a key word that I feel is important to that style and spec. So if you can't necessarily get these exact pieces of gear that we've got in the BiS list, what you can do is you can look at which of the keywords is associated with each of these play styles and then gear respectively. So what we have here is some examples of the, you know, items associated with each of the 4 aspects. So we've got obviously got Essence of the Martyr coming from Heroics for healing, but similarly, if you've just dinged and you're not ready for that quite yet, you can look at some of, you know, the lower tier healing trinkets, such as the Ushagun Relic, which is just a quest reward from Nagrand. When you've got resilience and stamina, I would suggest to basically anybody starting out to go for the Rune Dagger of Solace from Botanica. It's a fantastic healing weapon and obviously gives you that resilience and stamina. When it comes to cast speed, again, we can use the Meta Gem, but I am recommending Scarab of the Infinite Cycle. This drops from normal Black Morass, completely attainable even when you've just dinged. And finally, regen items. So this is a BOE blue shield. Again, it hasn't got that resilience and stamina, but you can balance it out maybe with the, you know, Rune Dagger and the Crystal Pulse shield together. They're a brilliant sort of starting entry level arena set. So as I said, yeah, if you aren't quite at the top of this BiS list yet, but you want to try these styles out and, you know, equip a gear set you've got, or, you know, hunt for some gear that sort of builds towards one of these styles, then as I said, try and use this as a bit of a guide on how to gear for each of the specs. So, in conclusion, what I would say, if you are curious, is play the style that you most enjoy. You know, if I had to really pick one that I think is the best, I would actually generally say it is the flexibility. Having a very large health pool gives you so many options, and you're not pigeonholed or forced into playing a particular way. If you are just laddering and you're playing, you know, going from one extreme to the other, having that buffer of a large HP pool and a lot of resilience is really going to help, and it does keep you alive, which is the important aspect. If you do have any questions, I may do a separate video to better explain it, but as a starting point, I hope this has been okay. Then going on, when we're swapping our gear from Season 1 to Season 2, what item do I pick, Caitlin? Well, you pick the one that gives you the biggest upgrade. You literally just do the maths, compare and contrast, and whichever has the biggest numbers, you do that one. When it comes to defining your playstyle and associating what gear to use, as you can notice, we had some highlighted stats throughout the slides, being healing, regen, cast speed, and resilience and stamina. These are the four kind of aspects of your gear that are going to vary and be assisted or assist a specific playstyle. So if you go back to the earlier slides, pause it there, see what the play style was really banking on when it comes to which of these four, and then try and get gear or gems around that stat. And that would be my suggestion for when you're first developing your gear set. If you're not going for the best of the best stuff, and you just want what you have available, and you want to gear a set for one of these play styles, this is the way to do it. So thank you very much for watching. What we've got now is we're going to have a set of clips where it is me either playing a warrior, and in that clip my shaman is Hanton. Hanton is a very good defensive shaman. He's a very defensive playstyle, or at least he used to. I think he's actually changed recently, but this footage was taken a while back, and you'll see us playing a slower, more defensive playstyle from the shaman, and his healing style is a fantastic example of that defensive style. After that, we then have myself and Spank playing, where I am in a very high flexibility gear set, so lots of resilience, lots of stamina, and we're going to be doing that style, playing Resto. And then finally we have the classic Caitlin, the full-on aggro sword wielding warrior shaman, smashing people and going very, very ham. So as always, please do subscribe, like, leave a comment. It really does help me out. And once again, thank you very much for all the support. I can promise you I am now back, so content will be coming. Look for the story time with Caitlin one over the next day or so. Enjoy the clips, guys. It's been your girl, Caitlin.
Havana, ooh, na, na. Havana, ooh, na, na. Half of my heart is in Havana, ooh, na, na. He took me back to East Atlanta, na, na, na. Oh, but my heart is in Havana. There's something that is manners. Havana, ooh, na, na. He didn't wake up with a how you doing. He said there's a lot of girls I can do it. I knew him forever in a minute. And Papa says he got mad in him. Havana, ooh, na, na. Half of my heart is in Havana, ooh, na, na. He took me back to East Atlanta, na, na, na. Oh, but my heart is in Havana. and the stars are crashing. Your heart is my own, and it goes on.